most video games, this is not how it works. This is not a normal control scheme.
Correct.
There's a reason people complained about it.
Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Coffee in my mouth, Nolan.
And this is episode 467. Question of the week. I didn't come up with this. If you had to marry a character from the last video game you played, who would it be?
So you did come up with that, and because you always do. So what are you thinking is what I want to know.
No, yeah, you got to go first because I know you have someone in mind.
I don't have
you've been thinking
mind,
about
Absolutely
this.
Do.
I don't. This was a user-submitted question.
Mm-hmm.
I only have two games that I've played recently. Listen, other than like the game of the week, because I don't know what I'd pick for Time Pilot.
The pilot from Time Pilot.
But the last two games that I played outside of the podcast is Silent Hill 2, which
God.
I wouldn't
Pick
marry
a character,
anyone
I dare
in that
you.
game. No, not one person in that game is worthy of marriage.
No.
And then the only game that I'm continuing to play, in fact, I'll beat it tomorrow, is Final Fantasy 13, which, by the way, I'm finishing Final Fantasy 13 right now from us starting it, 3-4 weeks ago. Nolan, since then, has played and beaten Final Fantasy 13, played and beaten Final Fantasy 16, and is now playing Final Fantasy 7 Remake. That's
Don't put me
he'll
on
probably
blast
beat
like
that
that.
before I beat 13.
He churns games.
So if I had to choose from Final Fantasy 13, I would choose a grown-up and mature vanilla because of her optimism and hopefulness. First of all,
legal.
I don't know why you're annoyed by her.
She's so obnoxious.
She's incredibly
she's too young,
kind,
Kenny. That's the problem.
Incredibly optimistic. She's older than all of us our ages combined. First of all,
Yeah, but if
and
you're
second
frozen
of all,
in time, in fact, you asked Kenny this question maybe last week, where you said, "Hey, if you're frozen, are you the same age when you're thawed in the future?"
I don't think you have proof of that, so I don't think that happened.
You're in trouble, dude.
All I'm saying is a grown-up, vanilla that is the same age that I am in this hypothetical world.
Okay.
That's better than Lightning or Fang. You'd go for Fang.
I'd go for Fang.
Better than Snow or Hope or anybody else. Better than Bartandalis. Anyways, vanilla.
Sid Reigns in that game goes pretty hard. Kenny?
My games have not been Final Fantasy 13.
Right.
I've also only played 2 games this week, and you're going to be mad at one of the answers, but I'm going to give it to you anyways.
Is it a Joker card?
It's the literal thing I've played the most recently. So if you allow me to say it, I'm going to say the Black D-Pawn. I've been playing chess online. Reason is I like my women like I like my chess openings Scandinavian. That means nothing to you guys.
He just made a chess joke, like a deep
like I'm gonna laugh at
joke.
like I'm gonna laugh at a good chess joke.
There's like 4 people who will be with me and they'll love it.
Okay.
If you say chess isn't allowed because it's sure it is a video game, but it's not primarily a video game.
It's not a video game.
Then
Of course not.
I mean,
that's crazy.
Freaking board game.
If you play it online, it's
crazy.
A
It's
video
been a game for 300
It
years.
was the first game.
It's not a video game.
It's a pre-video game, but you can play it
go
digitally. It qualifies.
It has pixels.
If it doesn't count, then the next choice is even easier. I've been playing a lot of The Bazaar. You guys know this. It's that
Get a new game, brother.
No, I play one game until I don't.
Nolan, what's there to marry in there? A card?
There's a hot chick in it.
Yeah, there's a whole roster of characters.
Is her name Vanessa?
Probably Vanessa is who I was gonna say and who I even wrote down. But now that you say it, there's other characters. There's the one whose theme is like being a cook.
There's no other characters.
No, there are.
There's a robot and a big cow dude.
Right, and then there's a potion guy.
Oh, the game's changed.
So say the other one.
Oh, the merchants.
I don't know
the
her
merchants.
name.
Yeah.
No. But the to be released, all of her cards have a cooking theme character. in the bazaar.
Could she make you some
To
food?
be released. She's not even in the game. His answers are, as expected, insane, and I love it. They are crazy.
I mean, Dustin didn't even give us a character from one of his games.
Nolan, if you're going off of Final Fantasy VII Remake, then you have a whole swath of really good options.
I owned my truth. He wants you to say Tifa. That's all he wants you to say.
There's
I
Remake, there's a better
will give you
option.
2 answers, both from a Final Fantasy game since I played them. So the last game I played was FF7 Remake just a few hours ago. Jesse.
Yes.
Clears Tifa, clears Aerith, so don't even at me. From 16, there is a correct answer. It's Jill.
See, and I'm glad that you liked Jill so much.
Oh my God. What? If you say one thing bad about Jill, I'll go and say
I didn't. I'm just glad that you liked
Wow.
her.
I don't even know who you liked in that game. Mid? You like mid?
Hold on. Do I have to have a girl that I would marry out of every game that I play?
You play Final Fantasy and you don't do that in your head? You don't make that internal...
I don't need waifus.
You choose
for
best
each
girl
one.
every time. And it's Jill. She's faithful. She's loyal. She's unproblematic. She's the best.
Faithful.
She's the best.
I looked it up. Her name is Jules.
That's what you were doing the whole time while Nolan was giving his and you weren't
The
interacting
unreleased
with him at all.
bizarre waifu.
Okay.
Jules.
Great. Well, I didn't come up with a segue this week, and if I did, I just have to wing it. Like in our retro game of the week, Time Pilot.
Overview.
Time Pilot is a 1982 arcade game. It's
Yeah,
a
it was.
Konami title.
Here we go.
Yeah, it was a Konami. You're
What?
asking questions. It was Konami.
You're asking questions. You're reading
No.
Wikipedia. I'm
It
proud
wa-
of you,
it
but
was-
Your
let's go.
inflection is
It
so
wasn't-
questioning.
It's slow. You
I
do it
wasn't
because you try to
there.
make people believe you're not reading. You think if I change up
That's
my
not
inflection
at
here,
all what
they're going to think
happens.
it's right off the top of my head.
No, everyone knows that. Yeah. You're just. I don't even know what to say to you.
Nolan started this.
No, I didn't. I was answering his questions.
Y'all have officially derailed us, and it's not my fault.
It's not.
This
Go ahead.
game takes place
Yes.
across a series of eras in aviation history. That's where Time Pilot comes from, because you are a time traveling pilot. You are going through time to rescue other pilots who have gotten themselves in trouble while dogfighting, and you're flying around in a futuristic plane, shooting down enemies, catching friendly pilots.
Are you catching them?
There are no pirates.
They might be
you are
pirates,
if you're doing your
honestly.
job. And then teleporting to another era and doing the same thing.
Did you say who developed and published it?
I did. I said it was developed in 1982
Yeah.
by
Yeah, I
Konami.
interrupted him. Yeah, that was my fault.
Designed
1982.
by Yoshiki Okamoto.
Which we laughed about last time, but was actually very reasonable to bring up at this point. We joked about it. I brought up his name last time when I was revealing the game, and Nolan, you in particular, were like, "Don't. Who cares?" He's a legend now that you do the research.
Yeah, I know.
Not only 1942, which we've either played that one
We
or
have
one of the
played
other
it.
ones in that era. He also was the creator of Final Fight, Street Fighter 2, the designer of that, and then he played a role, Nolan, in creating the Red Dead franchise.
Whoa, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
I also
like-
knew he worked on the Mega Man X series. He was like executive
Goodness.
producer for those games.
So
Yeah.
like this guy is
Yeah.
someone special.
He's an OG in the gaming community for sure.
This is a strange concept for a game to me, but I guess if you look critically at a lot of arcade games around this time, you would think the same thing. But like the different eras specifically, and then like time traveling through them.
Yeah,
kinda
because
feels
shmup
slapped on.
isn't abnormal. Like that was hot right now, right?
That's
so you've
yeah,
got,
that part's fine.
It's
just like
but
kind of the setup,
maybe
I
the
guess.
time travel, the sci-fi part of it.
Yeah.
1982. I want us to actually think about that
I know, it's
because
old.
that's old.
It
Yeah.
is.
And fun fact, we've only played, if I've done my math correctly, only 9 games earlier than this one. Can you name one of them?
Oh,
We've only there's only 9.
Adventure. No, Adventure.
Adventure
Lemmings?
was later. I think
Oh, you're
Adventure
right.
was 86 maybe.
Okay.
Lemmings, no, Lemmings was later.
DCSS?
Y'all are gonna have to go
No,
old, guys. You're gonna have to think
GCS.
old.
I know.
Oh.
We played Galaga, which is the shooter.
Ooh, that's interesting. We did play one of those. I don't know if it was Galaga. I don't think it was Galaga. I think it was
so.
Space
Long time
Invader.
ago.
It was Space Invaders.
Oh.
And I don't think that's earlier.
That's crazy
But
if it's
that
not.
doesn't make sense, right?
That feels
Doesn't make sense.
earlier.
Space
It feels-
Invader is earlier. You're
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
It is earlier. In fact,
9?
10
There's
games
10.
that
There's
are
10.
older.
in fact, there's probably a lot more because I was just looking in the 80s. There's a lot more. So you've
Then
got
there's
one.
no way I
Kenny
can get them.
and Nolan. You can get one.
Probably, but no.
What about
like
think
text-based.
Hippity Hoppity or think
Did we played Frogger?
we did play Frogger.
Okay. I
Man.
think
Was
we-
Oregon
I-
Trail before this?
Yes, sir, it was. Oregon
Okay,
Trail was
nice.
1971, brother. That's so
yeah,
old.
early versions of Oregon Trail were old.
So
Wait, that's
I
crazy.
failed because I was looking for earlier 80s games, and there's only
Right.
9 of those. But we actually have played a smattering of 1970 games. Space Invaders. You just said
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail. What else? We played 1979 Adventure. Kenny
Kenny was
all
right.
of
Did
your
say
stuff is
Adventure.
right and all of my stuff is wrong. There's only 3
Remember that.
1970 games that we played, and we just named those 3.
There were probably
Okay,
only
yeah.
like 10 total in the 70s made.
A few other 80s ones that were earlier than this that I put down was
Okay.
Lode Runner, Dig Dug, Spy Hunter, Dragon's Lair,
Yep.
which is so artsy and beautiful for its time.
Yeah, it's crazy that one's that early.
Yeah, it
E.T., the game that Kenny loved. We played Ladybug, an old arcade game,
Yeah.
Joust, an old arcade
Pac-Man,
game,
yep,
and Pigs in
yep.
Space, a terrible Atari game, I think it was.
The
I'd forgotten that
yeah,
one.
Pigs in Space. was
Muppets.
crazy.
That was
Muppets, okay.
Yeah, that was Miss Piggy. Yeah.
Woodpeckers from Space.
Only one of those was also from Konami.
The Ladybug game?
No. Good
That's a
guess.
good guess, Nolan.
Frogger. Yeah,
Ah.
good job, Kenny. Frogger. Yeah, so we have obviously played other Konami games, but
Yeah,
I
sure,
just
lots
wanted
of
to
them.
get us in the frame of mind. Like, we're
Yeah, that's
talking
old,
old here.
for
It's not
sure.
the oldest we played, but it is old.
Yeah, this is very early arcade era. I mean, prime arcade era. This is before even the whole like mid '80s video game meltdown. But
Caused
it's
by
when
E.T..
it's when the arcades were making money, and that was the thing. And it's so different than today. Crazy.
We now have a bonus episode exclusive for those on Patreon.
Episode is not an over-exaggeration. It's a full episode.
And it's an episode that you get to be a part of.
Yeah, it's called Expansion Pack, and semi-regularly, you get to be a part of the conversation, and we're going to debate, and we're going to scream at each
We're
other.
going to talk about
Have
video
arguments.
games. Yeah, we're going to scream mostly, though. That's kind of the point of it.
It'll be like goats.
You roast us, we roast you. Find out more information at patreon.com/ngppodcast.
Gameplay.
Time Pilot is a multi-directional shooter where you are center screen and you do not move. So it's one of those where really the stage around you is moving, but your center stage, although theoretically you're flying around, the sky is your space, but how the game functions is you're in the middle.
It's infinite scrolling mode. Like you can fly in any direction for as long as you want, which even other games that put you in the center and move everything around you, that's a pretty common actually way to do some of these. Not all of them, but it's not an uncommon thing. Some of them still have boundaries, levels, some kind of sides or ceilings or things you're navigating. This one, you just
Not here.
fly anywhere you want for as long as you want until you move from one era to the next.
hopefully. I mean, your goal is to
Right,
shoot
if you
down
don't die.
shoot down enemy planes. Can you set it up? But you're going throughout multiple eras of history into the future. So your first era is 1910, and I think you're taking on World War I biplanes. And then you fast forward or time travel, I guess, to 1940, and you're taking out World War II era fighters. And then you go to 1970, and you're taking out helicopters at that point in time. 1980s at 1982, I think, and you're doing fighter jets, taking out fighter jets, and then finally to the future, the far distant future, to 2001, where you're taking out UFOs.
Accurate prediction.
All of it.
I love that 2001 is the distant future.
So good.
It's going to be sci-fi distant future, and we haven't even, scratched the surface of our weird dystopian reality at that point yet. But yeah, that's the series of times, and it's funny that they overtly give you 1982 because that's present. That's the year the
For
game
them,
came
yes.
out. So they did
interesting.
they did World War I, World War II, Vietnam,
modern
today, and then someday we'll be in space shooting aliens is sort of the vibe as when this game came out.
And about the control thing, I saw a lot of complaints about this in Discord this week.
I'm with you, Nolan.
I'm like, yeah, I booted up, was like, oh, this is strange. And then I quickly was like, okay, I got it.
Okay, but so you don't think a 16-minute explanation of how the controls work is necessary?
I don't think so, no.
Hey, Kenny?
Okay, it is, because these controls are janky.
No, Kenny, they make so much sense.
They do
Nolan,
not.
I was with you. The first 30 seconds, I'm like, oh, this is a little weird.
Cool with
After
it.
that,
Good.
barely even considered it anymore.
Okay, well, y'all are some kind of superhuman
No!
because I struggled with it all week long.
A lot of people did, Kenny.
all
A lot of
week?
people in Discord did, and I don't.
Very abnormal to what we play and how we play. And I get, games are new, you got to learn, you got to update, and certainly I got better at it.
16 minutes.
It was a huge problem, when I first picked the game up. But it never feels natural, and it's not... Okay, functionally, here's the problem.
No,
it is.
Okay.
And we
No,
need
I
to
thought
talk
you were
about
going
it.
to try to explain it, and unless you were able to whittle it down,
Go on.
I
I'm
don't.
I'm going to explain the general problem. The general problem is this game was designed for a joystick and single button arcade experience.
So?
And that arcade joystick vibe doesn't translate well to playing on non-joystick scenarios.
I think it would have been the same issue.
I will give you that. I agree with what you're saying.
I think it's still a little janky, but it makes more sense in that context.
I would rather have
only
the cabinet, yeah.
The only thing, look, it makes a lot of sense. The only thing, if you press left, you're going to end up going left. But the thing is, it's
you
going
say
to...
that like it makes sense. It doesn't necessarily make sense.
It does. It does. I mean, listen, if you're
in
facing...
most
Wow.
video games, this is not how it works. This is not a normal control scheme.
Correct.
There's a
It
reason
is-
people complained about it.
It is different, and thank God it is, or the game would be too easy. That's part of the challenge of maneuvering of learning to maneuver the ship in space and time. But if you're facing right and you press left, guess what, guys? You're going to end up facing left. It's just you're not going to. My God, you're just not going to face left immediately. You're going to go up and around to be able to face left. That's all. That's it. Solved.
No, that's not solved. You
So-
can't.
Kenny, in your mind,
it's very more problematic than that.
you want to hit left and then it immediately
And face
goes
left immediately. Yes, that's what he wants
with
to do.
no turning. Is that what you're saying would be
No.
better?
No,
Then
that's
what are
not
you
what I'm
saying?
saying at
That's
all.
what most multi-directional shooters would be.
I mean, maybe, and that would also be fine.
What do you want to happen then?
Not this. This is the worst.
He doesn't want it to be
choice.
bound to the center of his screen.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Oh, great.
That's
if you don't
perfectly
have a
fine.
better solution, I want
Yes.
you to zip it.
Here's the better solution.
Okay.
Don't even give an up and down. Just turn left and right. No,
are you
literally,
gonna shoot
you're a ship. You go this way and you go this way. You spin in a circle. You literally only have a left and right. Your orientation should always be my icon is turning this way or it's turning this way.
I mean, you
That's
can
it.
basically do that if you just
can't.
Wow. Because you will if you with just left and right, you can do everything above the left and right hemisphere. If you just give one tap down when you're facing left or right, then you can go right back to left or right and have the entire down hemisphere.
That's
Yes.
not how it works.
Yes,
it's
it is
kind
how
of
it
how
works.
it works. But
Did you
it's
ever plug in a
not.
joystick, like a controller?
I played with a controller, but here's the thing. Mostly I played with a controller on a D-pad, not a controller on a deal.
I mean, I used keys the entire week because this game, since it's so old, is able to be played even in browser, even with save states. And
Yeah, that's how I played as well.
At the beginning, it was confusing. I think I told one or both of you before y'all had even played, hey, tap those buttons, because if you're just trying to hold, especially at first, it's going to feel really bad. But I'm being honest with you, Kenny. I do agree that it's odd and different.
It's
it is
janky.
No, I don't. I don't
Yes.
agree with that.
I
I do
would
not
give
think
you
it is
janky.
janky
I
at all.
will.
I don't think it's janky at all. I think it's really well designed. It's a choice, and it should take you a couple of sessions to get largely a hang of it. And by the end of the week, you should certainly have a hang of it.
It's a poor choice, and one that is exacerbated by the fact that we aren't playing with an actual joystick.
I will give you.
It still wasn't good on an actual joystick.
I will give you the word jank, Kenny, but I'm being generous because I kind of agree with Dustin. And actually, I think
I agree
the
with you.
way the game controls is actually part of the charm of this game and what kind of sets it apart from a lot of other shooters. No, actually, I don't think this was like they accidentally did it. I don't think they wanted it to be artificially challenging for people to grasp. I don't think they wanted to frustrate you, Kenny. I think the whole idea of this game is so that it could feel like you are going anywhere you want, and this is the clever trick that they used to do it, and I think it's fine. Quickly, I thought it was fine, actually.
It's a bad choice. It's a problem, and they should have done it differently.
Well, that's bad, Kenny, because that's the game. So if you got stuck on the control thing, then you ain't coming back from that.
I mean, it's a big part of the game. There's a lot of other stuff to talk about.
Sure,
you do have to learn how to maneuver well, because not only is your goal to eliminate 56 of the ships that are on the stage on any given stage to be able to face the boss, which we'll talk about, love it, to get to the next stage, but you have to avoid not only their ships, but their bullets. On the first stage, it's just little pea shooting bullets, usually one at a time.
I mean, they have bombs too on stage one.
Sporadically, they'll have bombs. On the stage 2, it is more pea shooting, missiles and a lot more bombs. But by stage 3 and onward, you've got basically heat-seeking missiles that are following your trajectory. So it becomes you need to be able to maneuver a lot more.
Yeah, which makes your maneuverability really important, not just on one hemisphere or the other, across hemispheres.
And then, as Kenny had previously mentioned, there are parachutists that are coming down that you want to try to collect for extra points. Kenny, in your first play, you actively avoided. I mean,
I did too, to be fair.
I didn't know what they were.
I thought it was an enemy. Of course, I thought it was an enemy. It didn't look like a power-up or something nice or points.
A white parachute with a red cross on it doesn't scream, friendly to you?
No, in these games, everything is lava. I'm not touching
anything.
that.
Yeah, anything until I know better, I'm going to assume is going to kill me.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think I accidentally ran into it and was like, oh, that was just points. So that is one thing I do want to, complain about kind of up front. Y'all already know I'm not, a shmup guy in the first place, but collecting those guys, giving you points is fine. That's the appeal to this one. There's not a lot of arcade games that I care about the high score, but this one, that's clearly the focus, and that's what I cared about. I wanted there to be power-ups. I wanted things to be falling, and usually I'm not that interested in those things, but not having the like upgrade path was felt this week. But it was probably too early for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that is a huge ask for 1982, brother.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
We're way away from that.
We're not way away from it.
I mean,
We're not
5
way away.
years at least.
That's crazy. You could have added
For upgrades? Yes.
Yeah, even 1, 2, like
Now that's different, but they intentionally in the design of this decided a one-button shooter, which at first I was like, I always love the extra bomb, which you have in some of these earlier shooters.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have upgrades,
Screen clear.
you have the bomb.
Yeah.
But they didn't give it to you here, which I think is a good decision based on the game that they designed, but I do understand what you're saying from there. The other thing that happens on any given stage is that every once in a while there will be 5 bombers or 5 planes, 5 enemies that fly in a V pattern, and a little chime will play so that you know that they've just come on the screen. And if you're able to clear all of those before they leave the screen, you get extra points for that as well.
I was never
so
able
yes,
to do
Nolan.
that.
I agree with you that points are a big thing here, but also points are the thing that's giving you the extra lives. So like they tether those two things where it really gives you incentive to try to get more points.
Right, because you're going to need extra lives because you're going to lose track of which direction you're going and die some. You get an extra life at 10,000 points, and then every 50,000 points after that, you get an additional extra
Only
life.
50?
Which yeah,
as
like
well.
that's a lot.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of points to have to like.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's kind of unforgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be doing pretty well to get all the way through this game. If you do get all the way through it, though, you get to the end, you play all the way through the UFO level, beat it. Yep,
But you won't.
Starts over. No, you won't. I mean, people
You won't.
could. I won't. But like,
I
this
will.
is a game people could get good enough at to get all the way through.
Yes.
Um,
Must be good design.
that's not what that means. You start back over, you do it again, but you do it on a slightly harder difficulty. It is worth noting that this game has 9 different difficulty
Does
levels.
it really
I
go
my
believe.
that high?
goodness.
Yep.
You're a lunatic if you can get that far.
Then it
don't
becomes
know.
a bullet hell, I would imagine.
I don't know. I mostly played on easier levels, so I don't know on the harder levels
I bet
how
it's
much harder it
crazy.
gets. But on a repeat, it bumps you up difficulty. I don't know if it bumps you up just 1 or if it's like certain thresholds, but it's a play it again harder and then just do that forever until you. I don't think it ever stops, but it will max out on points. You can't make it. You can't make it to 1 million at like 960,000 points. That's the most you can get, and then it'll let you just play forever until you die. I think at that point.
Limitations of the arcade boards. That a point cap probably.
One of the things that this game has that some of these earliest shooters do not have are bosses. I'm gonna call them bosses. They take all the other
fair.
ships. All the other ships in the game take 1 shot. So, oh, by the way, you can't hold down the shoot button. Unfortunate, but also it's not just press the button and 1 P goes out. You have a line of
You get a
shots that
burst.
go out. A burst. Yeah.
I think 3 bullets per or
Is
something
it just
like that.
3?
I
I
think
like
so.
there's a lot more.
But you're hitting it a lot.
Sure.
And so there's more than 3 at a time, but I think 1 push
That makes sense.
I believe is 3, but I that number could be wrong.
Each enemy only takes 1 shot. The bosses 7, I believe, 7 shots each. Which the only thing there is I do wish that maybe with each stage the boss took more shots, so it made the bosses feel a little bit more challenging or difficult each time.
Also, they just fly in a horizontal line.
Hey, but they're shooting at you.
Yes. I wish that they looked like fish.
Oh,
And
but you don't
have
give those
phases.
games your vote.
We're not
Have
going back to
phases.
that game.
No,
Darius Gaiden.
I appreciate them being here. Again, an 82 shmup, yeah, for sure. That's nice to have like a definite line of like when you're done with the stage to progress to the next one. You have this extra threat on the screen. I enjoyed that. I thought it was great.
Something else we didn't talk about, but is important to know mechanically for this type of game, you can shoot enemy projectiles. So
Thankfully.
thankfully, sometimes games won't let you do that. There are some games where the projectile just moves and you have to dodge it.
Can you shoot the peas?
Can you shoot the
I
peas? I,
know
don't
you
think
can
you can
shoot
shoot the
missiles.
peas.
I know you can shoot the missiles. I
Missiles,
think you can
definitely.
even shoot the peas, but I'm
Really?
not. I'm
That'd be
not.
nice.
I'm not certain. I don't recall. But I just remember
You're
thinking,
gonna need to do
I
that.
can shoot the projectiles. This is very helpful, and often did that to try and stay alive.
Yeah, and that is huge, and I like that. I would like to say I'm aiming, and I'm like, I know where I'm going, and I'm flying straight, or like where I want to shoot and aim. But let's be honest, I'm spamming the button, and I'm chaotically trying to dodge things. There's no rhyme or reason to my methods. Like the game, if I watched someone play it first, and then I played it, and I was like, oh, this looks like really straightforward. But when you're in it, it's way harder than it looks.
Because the controller.
No, it's not the controller. It's not. I mean, it's not the
absolutely is.
controls. No, it's just there's a lot coming at you, and it's because the input is not immediately left, and that's how they designed it.
The three of us approach these games so drastically different from one another. It's hard for me to even wrap my mind around how y'all. So like Nolan, you just said chaotically flying around just trying to survive, spamming everything. Kenny,
Of course, I'm spamming.
Kenny, you've described / I watched you try to process and slowly, like you're trying to mathematically, you're trying to figure it out. I would like to see your improvement over the week and see if you were at a better place by the end of the week.
Not good because it's jank, but better.
For me though, it looks bad at first as I'm figuring things out, but then I lock in. I've figured it out, and like I can get past now the first two stages pretty consistently without losing even a ship now. And it's the third stage with the heat seeking that starts to challenge me.
Gets much more difficult at that point.
I have gotten to the final stage this week on a coin, so without having
that is impressive.
Doing save scumming. I can't get through that final one. It changes. It's much more difficult on the fifth one. But so like the way that we approach and our success with our approaches are radically different from one another.
I mean, that's interesting in a game that seems so simple upon first glance that we all kind of have a little different experience. I will say on that difficulty curve, it felt a little. I mean, it's an arcade game, so they wanted you to spend money on it, and that's felt here to me.
Oh, sure.
Like kind of.
It's a quarter-muncher.
Yeah, and
I would say yes, it's a quarter-muncher, but I wouldn't say it's one of those unfair ones. There are a lot of unfair quarter-munchers that like are punishingly difficult. I think this is difficult, but I think that it's fair in that it gives you the extra lives, and the difficulty spread is there so that you're able. I mean, if you know what you're doing, I think on a coin, especially if I was able to do it in a week, you can play this for a minute.
You can.
I'll agree.
I do think that the UFOs are so nasty and just kind of a huge spike. I don't know if I'd call it a curve. Maybe it's a curve. It's just an odd shaped curve. But like it unfortunately is like just real nasty UFOs that are so fast, and I know it's early and I'm asking too much. I want these to be more of a progression in terms of your skill, and I know upgrades weren't a thing, but like stuff like that but it often is the case with this genre with arcade where it's actually the opposite, so that you spend more money.
We started talking about it, but I want to make sure that we clarify this, that each of the bosses are different ships based on the time period that you're fighting them in, and I thought that was interesting and creative. So you've got the not the blimp, the Zeppelin. Thank you. The Zeppelin in the first one, it's a bomber. In the second, just a large helicopter. In the third, B-52 bomber. In the fourth, and then you could guess
Big
the UFO boss. It's a mothership.
Yeah. But the enemy variety across this game is also kind of surprising to me.
Yeah.
Could have been, some games did, just little like squares essentially that resemble a ship, but these were all distinct and fit the time frame in which you were, which era you're in.
And they did have different attacks, like the fact that there
yeah.
was progression at
Yeah.
all. You're getting smaller enemies that are more difficult to hit. You're getting projectiles that are moving differently and are tracking you. Like, it becomes an increasing challenge as you go. Again, probably not like a linear increase. There's some distinct steps as you go, but it clearly is going somewhere. It's moving forward, both in time and in complexity as you play. Kind of interesting to note that there's a version of this game where you also can pop in the Konami code and travel back in time to prehistoric era and shoot down
What?
pterodactyls.
In this
Yeah.
game?
Yep.
No, not
the
in this
arcade one.
version, not the
Yeah,
arcade version.
The GBA re-release
Oh,
version
that's
of this
cool.
incled a go back in time.
I
The
appreciate
only
that
thing
a
is,
lot.
I wish that when you shot them, like the ships, they would explode, but they don't. They just fall down.
They like die and fall, and then
Oh,
you
that's
can't really
kind of
tell
sad.
which ones are
Yeah,
still like
it's
alive
rough.
and which ones aren't. It's sort of busy and ugly.
Oh, that's such a good
Nolan,
use of Konami code, though.
yeah, it's Konami code that gets you there, which is so great.
Yeah.
Did y'all have a high enough score worth recording to talk about on the episode?
I think so.
No.
I looked at a couple people's in
Proud of
Discord, and I
you.
was like, okay, well. But yeah,
Oh.
I have them.
I'm sure you guys smoked me. I didn't even really pay attention to it. I have a did you question as well, though, once you brag about how good you did. So
Nolan,
finish up.
80,000.
Nolan,
It was like 81.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
No, that's
a solid score.
Nothing to scoff at.
Someone had like
Uh,
150K or something like that.
Yeah, but I think that was Shane maybe. But
Yeah.
that's really good, I would say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my best was 117,300.
Dang.
Yeah, that's a very good run.
That is a
I think
great
I definitely had higher. I think I averaged about 50
Oh,
to 60 was my average.
Yeah.
But those weren't great runs. I had better runs than that.
What's absolutely key is getting those extra lives, because
Yeah, that's what I
like,
was going to say. And that kind of adds so much to the game. On the surface, it doesn't seem like it because, again, there are plenty of examples of high score chasing games where they want you to do that, but it's nothing. Who cares? But dodging bullets and like going out of your way to get that parachute, that's a lot of the game for me. It was so much fun to to actually snag them when they show up.
Yeah. Hey, did you and Kenny, I know you've got a question on maybe the second stage onward. There are, I'm going to call them mini bosses. There are other larger ships that are not the bosses that will come across that will give you extra points if you take them out.
Yeah,
I think
it
that was
kind of like the V formation thing that you were talking about.
There's that, but also there's like different kind of ships.
Yeah.
Like there was this longer yellow ship, I think, on the second one that just
Yeah,
flies
so-
in the same boss pattern, so
yeah, I
it's just
kept
across
thinking
the
it was
screen.
the boss.
Some
Yeah.
nice enemy variety there for sure. Anybody play 2-player this week?
Does it
No,
have
and
two-player?
it's
It
not
does.
two on the same.
It does.
But it's not what you
No.
think.
Yeah. It's
One
a 2-player
person goes,
mode.
next person goes, higher score
Yes.
wins. That's
Yeah,
so
well-
cool. That's so cool.
I don't know.
Like-
Yeah,
Just
it's. I
of
thought,
you
you
go.
know, when I hear two players that you're playing at the same time, but also that wouldn't work because you're
Yeah.
both center screen.
This game's kind of
Like-
like perfect.
you could do it, but it would be hard.
It's kind of like perfect for the arcade. Like when I say arcade a lot, I'm talking about
Yes.
the genre. I'm talking about the location when I say
The
that.
location,
Like that's a
like
good
competing
Yeah.
people,
and
in
it's
line.
quick too.
Absolutely.
Like you can
Right.
rotate that all day.
Kenny, you got on
turns.
the leaderboard. I saw you in your first play. You're like fifth place.
Yeah.
Were you able
At
to
sign
take first
dollar
place
sign
ever?
dollar sign.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
you were able to take first place. Proud of you.
Which is not hard. No, it's actually weirdly not hard. Some of these games, like your leaderboard, like presets, are pretty
Pretty high.
aspirational. This one, if you play just a small amount and aren't completely terrible, you're gonna be in first place in no time.
Go to the arcade. There's no way you're getting on the leaderboard.
Absolutely, there's
Oh,
no
there's
way
some sweats.
because some people were no life in it, and one quarter took them through a way longer run than I'll ever make.
Aged.
We didn't talk about it, but I think it is an interesting conversation when we're talking about how this game aged. I think some of the development of this game has actually a kind of interesting story as well.
Car.
The developer and team, we already talked about him. What's his name?
Yoshiki Okamoto.
Yeah. He was convinced this was going to be a good game, pitched it, was told, no thank you, go work on this other thing instead, some kind of driving game that
driving
he
car
thought
game,
was was lame. Like, it's like a thing where you're like driving and you are supposed to work towards getting your license or something, and he was like, this is not a great game. I have
That's
a
Mary
better
Kate
idea.
and Ashley Sweet 16.
He could have been the author of that.
he could have done Sweet 16. And so he literally like just had his team do this game and like fake developed the other game so that it could be done and
No.
he could just ship it to his bosses.
No, they still did the other game, but while they were doing the other
Right,
game,
they
they
just
worked
did
on this
both.
one too.
He was pretending that they
And
were
then
putting
they-
all the resources in the racing one, but he was like,
Right. He
Code
was
this.
he and the team were developing this on the side and then
Yeah.
dropped it, and I don't think they were super happy with
Oh,
him
no.
about it.
Until-
But then it got into arcades because they were like, well, it's a completed game, we might as well put it out there. Did great. This game made lots of money. I think there was at least 1 month where here in the US it was the top selling game for the month,
Wow.
like the top money maker. It did great, and they were like, oh, fine, like whatever.
They still, he still didn't work there much longer just because of disagreements. Probably when you can make decisions
Right.
like that.
you
and,
need your
like,
own company. Don't.
You need to move.
Yeah.
But in Japan, Time Pilot was the 5th highest grossing arcade game of 1982, behind Pingo, Galaga, Dig Dug, and in number 1 was Pole Position, which
Oh, interesting.
is a stripper game.
No, it's
Yeah, so fifth. So yes, this
Yeah, that
game
is-
did really well.
I think that is so funny, and it reminds me of Final Fantasy. Actually, you know, Sakaguchi did that with his team, with Final Fantasy.
can't
He was
do
working
that.
on a yeah, it was like a racing game as well. It was something bland, and he told his developer, like his programmer, secretly work on this game that I want to make. They gave him an office, and then they just made Final Fantasy. Japan game devs in the 80s, Wild West. That
It's
was
the
the same
Wild
time
West.
too. Final Fantasy came out in like 87,
Yeah.
I think. Dude, that is so funny to me, but also game I don't know, game devs are a different
don't do
breed.
this. Yeah,
Unless
don't-
it's really good.
Unless
no,
it's
don't
genius.
don't hear that this is the thing
Right.
that people have done and take it as advice for your
Well,
career.
these days you can just make your own game.
yeah. If you're doing that, make it a whole separate thing.
The game was re-released a number of times. So Super Famicom, Konami Arcade Classic on the PlayStation. It was on the DS as a part of an arcade
interesting.
hits series. And then most recently in 2021, it came to the Switch as a part of the arcade archives.
Nice.
Yeah. It also got sequels. There's a
A
Time
sequel.
Arcade 84. Yeah.
Just called it
Well,
84.
sequel. A sequel in this timeline.
It was called 84 not because of the time that you went to in the game, but because it came out in 1984.
Do you,
and it
you
was
might
all-
go to 84 in that game.
I don't think so. I think it's
Oh.
all futuristic in that game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So they
Yeah,
continue to go with that. Which
yeah, similar
by-
similar game.
you know, there's no manual that comes with the arcade, but I'm pretty think about I think logically you are a pilot of the future and you are going back in time. I mean, look at your ship. Your ship is futuristic. You're going back in time to rescue some of your pilots or you know whatever that are there in different times. But also think about it. You're not taking out drones, you're murdering tons of humans and to rescue your people and bring them back to your time.
You got to be really careful with which pilots you shoot down because you shoot down
Could
the
be your
wrong
dad.
person and suddenly you don't exist. Exactly.
Wow, y'all
It's-
are doing that.
It's a problem.
Graphics, sound, thoughts on either of those?
Sound, yeah, I do have thoughts. The one song that is in the game is unironically good. It's a jingle. It's not a song, but I really enjoyed it.
I don't know
Yeah,
if that's a
these-
song.
When you're
These
putting
are
in your
more
high score.
sound effects than music.
Sure, it's
Even
a jingle.
even the jingle is
Yeah.
more of a sound effect.
But it sounds great.
Most of what you get isn't background music. Most of
Yeah.
what you get is sound effects, and they're very arcadey. But I actually thought they were really well done.
Oh, I love them. I love
they-
the sound of the bullets.
Yeah, they feel good. They're satisfying. They're responsive. They make sense with what's going on. They match the things that are going on the screen. The really satisfying visual of now we're like transporting you in time where your ship sort of,
that
like,
animation
disappears
at the
into
end, I
negative space.
love.
Yep.
Yes.
And there's sound that goes with that too. It's just yeah,
82,
really,
guys.
really nicely done given what they had to work with.
I also thought graphically it looks really nice. There's not tons to it, so you need to understand that. But it's a blue sky. The clouds, the enemies fly behind the clouds.
Yeah,
blue
there is
sky.
depth there. That's right.
They're so smart about giving, again, your very, very simple backgrounds. They're solid color backgrounds.
solid
you
blue.
start on a blue screen, but then
Yeah.
you move to a light blue, then you move to
Oh,
a teal,
yeah, that's
then you
true.
move to a magenta, then you move to a black screen when you're in space. And so, like, each era has its
Yeah.
own look to the background. So at a glance, you can tell I know what era I'm in because of not just the enemies, but also
Sure.
the background. But yeah, you were talking about the clouds, Dustin, when I jumped in with my color thing. So well done. Like, they're
Your
simple,
color commentary.
but the fact that they're way in the back and that they move differently and at different speeds
The
to add a little bit
asteroids
of
being the
depth,
clouds in that stage, though.
In the
Messed
aliens.
it's
with
so
me.
I know.
Well, sure. Yeah.
It's hard to wrap your head around like that.
yeah,
but it
yeah.
looked good though.
Okay, good. Yeah, popping colors simple, but your ship looks
Simple.
cool. I mean, futuristic, cool. It's tiny, but I thought you. Here's the thing, arcade. We've talked about before, but is usually ahead of its time when especially when you're comparing it to like consoles of what they were able to do back then. In fact,
Absolutely.
the
Much
Atari
better.
and like Coleco versions of these are not good to look
No,
at. Like
no,
they are.
they look much worse.
Oh yeah, but you have so much more color and definition and things here that you know what you're looking at. Everything looks good, sounds good. I agree with you. The shot is really satisfying and the explosions. The shot is very kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but
Across
it's just
all
not,
eras, it sounds like that.
yeah. So that's fun. If you want a copy for your home, so I'm talking about like, one of those. Oh, you know what? That's the problem with these arcades. It's one of those that I think is not too rare. But
Like
is
an
cabinet
original
itself?
board.
the cabinets. I think there's
Yeah.
a lot of cabinets out there, but I didn't find any or many for sale. I think I had seen one for 3,500, something like that. But
Okay.
if you're wanting to play this today, it would simply be getting a version like we mentioned on the Switch and and being able to play, or as I mentioned earlier, playing for free in browser. Although you don't have the joystick, it gives you a really good experience there, in my opinion.
I would recommend, if you're going back and playing one of the versions, because I did play
Ooh.
with a few of them this week, the PlayStation re-release that
Interesting.
comes with the Konami Arcade Classics version, which again you can then go physically get a disc. That shouldn't be expensive at all.
Huh.
Pop it in, feels very accurate, plays exactly like the game. I actually did it partly because I was frustrated and hoped that they changed the way that the movement worked.
That's
and
the
so
game.
I was actually going
is
there
the
like
game.
trying to see if
That's
that
so
may have
funny, trying to
happened
get away.
differently. But it's accurate. It looks like the arcade. It has the visuals, and that one's going to be super accessible and easy for you to get. So, not a hard one to get into if you want to.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. Kenny, the elder of the bunch, the one that is closer to the age of this release, what did you think of Time Pilot?
So, if you're a fan of that in the arcade, true retro, like early 80s video game vibe, which is a very unique sort of era in gaming, it is hard to get much more classic than this. There's some more well-known titles, but this absolutely is firmly in that looks and sounds and plays like a great classic arcade game. I do think playing it today comes with some frustrations. I'm going to speak for everyone, and I know you guys didn't hate it, but the control scheme is more problematic than 2 out of the 3 of us want to make our listeners believe. They can try it themselves and find out if they want. But between those frustrations and then the simplicity of this game, it's not one that I'm going to recommend people go out of their way to play or find. It's a cool game. It's well made. I don't think it offers enough to be worth the playtime in 2025. So no knocks against this game. It really is good. I think just the nature of the game, the little bit of frustration, and the simplicity when there's other arcade games that I think are more interesting ultimately means that this one's a no NGP for me. But I'm not hating on it. It's a solid little arcade game and, probably passable. But if you're into that era, go check it out.
Into which era? 1920, 1940, 1982?
I'm a 1910
If you're into
guy.
time travel, multi-directional, infinite scrolling fighters, go do it.
I think that Time Pilot is an excellent arcade game. Nolan, you had mentioned it earlier, and I reserved saying it in the moment. This is probably the first game, maybe ever, that made me care about high score. I do not play, because I'm not a product of these kinds of arcade games. My arcade games were TMNT and Street Fighter and different versions. So like I wasn't typically going to the arcade to get a high score for anything. So that's not ingrained in me. And even when we played games like that on the podcast, it doesn't work for me if that's the only objective. I felt like it wasn't the only objective here. Getting through the stages was challenging, but it was an objective. I think tethering it to the lives, which most of these do, I really don't know what the reason is that made me care about high score this week. But I was somewhat baffled at the beginning, but once it clicked, it was so much fun, and I enjoyed every single time I was coming back to it, and I felt myself improving and getting better. This is honestly one of my favorite early arcade games, and is probably one of my favorite arcade shmups now, especially amongst the early ones.
That's high praise coming from you because you're a fan of the genre.
Yeah,
but it also makes you liking it a little less of a surprise because it's a type of game that works for you.
I do give my vote for New Game Plus status. I think it is an excellent arcade shooter. Shane does this every once in a while. At the he'll post in the Game of the Week channel on our Discord and ask what people predict that each of us will say. Okay?
I voted in it. I voted every single one.
Kenny, yours failed. You had 20% said yes, that you'd say yes, and 16% of your votes said no, and they were wrong. The 20% was wrong. For me, 25% of votes said no, and 7% said yes.
Wow.
So they were wrong on me.
I think I would have thought you were going to like it more than I would.
And then for Nolan, 30% said no, and 2% said yes. I'm nervous. Wow. I'm shocked that there's 2. I was pretty confident and we'll see that Nolan was going to be a hard no. I've already heard some things you've said cause me to believe it's probably not going to be hard if it is. And then Kenny, my one worry, I knew this could connect with him. My one worry was him not getting a hang of the controls the entire week, and it
wasn't a hang of it issue.
He's going to blame it on the developers. I can do it. Everybody else can do it.
I think all developers.
Just because I can't do something doesn't mean I should.
Yeah.
I could do a 5K on my knees, but that'd be miserable.
You couldn't though.
That's
one
could.
Yes. You couldn't. That's one yes, one no. Nolan, it comes down. The power is in your hands.
The two. Okay, I wrote in my summary. I am super undecided. Unfortunately, I never do this. I don't know if I've done it one time. Y'all have done it a couple times where you've come on and you're like, I actually don't know what my vote is. It's a weird feeling. But I know where I landed after talking it out.
You're about to say
the
wrong
game
thing.
The game is really short-lived. What I mean by that is I was kind of done with my time with it. quicker than I wanted it to be. But
Yep.
No.
it is this game in 1982. I don't like shmups typically. It's not my favorite. And arcade titles, I'm very apprehensive to play. This game demanded my respect because it is one of the better designed arcade shooters that I've played. You saying it's bad design, Kenny, is crazy. I don't think it's bad.
Not bad design. The only thing I have a problem with is the implementation of how they did the controls.
And that's precisely
That's like
why I
the
think the
thing.
game is good. That's precisely why I think the game is good.
Okay, I
Not-
went from this is a take to like this is ridiculous. You can
All
like
right.
the game for other reasons, but like that's the worst part of this game.
No. And there might be some legacy experience here. You get this. There's like a WarioWare minigame that has the same control scheme, and I'm used to it. No, I think I'm giving this game New Game Plus. I think it's kind of exceptional quality for the time that it came out. Again, short-lived. Play it. You don't need to play it for like super long, but again, it's an arcade game. It's kind of by design that it's short-lived, so I'm not really upset about that aspect. And yeah, the short time that I had with it, I was all about pushing the high score. I don't know why, more so with this one, but like getting that freaking parachuter was everything. And it was really satisfying when you got him. The 2% of people need to buy a lottery ticket.
I'm fine with that conclusion, but I really hate why you got there.
I mean, you can hate it. It's just true. Like I said, I was undecided because I was like, "Am I right? Like, am I right in thinking those things?" Like, because I was thinking people in Discord were upset with a lot of things. I was like, maybe I'm just stupid, or maybe I.
No, it's fine. You're right in respecting things about this game. Just the control scheme is a terrible one to put in that list.
There you go, Dustin. Happy birthday.
Time Pilot is New Game Plus certified, but what did you think on our YouTube poll this week? Of course, 84% have never played it. Like, yeah,
Sure.
obviously.
Yeah, because it's a boomer. It's like older than boomer.
Here's the remarkable thing. 11% said, yes, it's worth playing today, and only 5% said no.
I still think those 5% still haven't played it. I think you just answered the question. I think if you play it, you're like, oh.
I do think this will. I don't think it's going to work for everybody.
No, it's not. I'm exaggerating.
And it didn't work for everybody in our community. We have a mixture, though. It's not everybody disliking it. And the people that did dislike it, I think that they are just old and couldn't get with the control scheme.
Before you start,
Yep.
we're going to get slammed with... Just be ready for like 5 to 10 comments in Discord of blank Time Pilot gets New Game Plus and blank didn't. Go ahead, Dustin.
Please.
That's fair.
A Chance said, for 1982, I guess the pixel graphics were good. However, for a game named Time Pilot, the pilot should have spent more time in pilot school to be able to do a loop without me having to do mental gymnastics to figure out how to turn 360 degrees. I pilot back to our time and give this game no NGP.
I don't know what y'all were trying...
Yeah,
what were your brains trying to do?
I don't...
Anything coherent.
It is so coherent.
It is not.
This is awesome how divisive this game is. I actually love this. Because that's that's a non-issue for me, but I understand that it is for people.
Shane shared his high score of 156,500, which is higher than any of ours, and said, this one honestly surprised me a little in how much I enjoyed it. I kind of expect the worst with arcade games in wanting to gobble up my coins, but this felt like it was issuing me a fair challenge. With lives at a premium and the version I played leading with its mechanics and score goals, it managed to make me actually care about score. The feeling of hearing a formation approach and quickly deciding if I need to evade it or if I could wipe them out for that extra bonus was great. Of course, avoiding death is always desired, but the stacking points of the parachuters really made me feel the need for caution to balance that aggression. Ultimately, this felt a pretty fair challenge. I'm sure the difficulty was if it was cranked higher in the arcades but I'd still feel reasonable. A few tricks higher. a few ticks higher. I stuck with easy as the default on the version I played. Definitely think this is a game worth trying. It may surprise you in what you find in GP from me.
The ship being locked in the middle is what sets it apart from other shmups. It's why it's Time Pilot. That's why this game's Time Pilot, and I think it's great.
Everything he said is fine. The ship locked in the middle is also fine.
Good.
I still don't
Team
know
Morris,
what your problem
Team
is.
Morris said, I'm better at Souls games than I am at this game, and I'm terrible at this game. Controls just do not mesh with my
reasonable.
brain. Graphically, it looks really nice, and the parallax clouds are probably super nice for 1982. No NGP.
Yeah. Okay.
Rustifer said, I had the distinct pleasure of playing Time Pilot with my niece at Dinky Pop-Up Arcade at a city festival this past winter. The joystick was broken, and while I managed to limp through... No, he probably thought the joystick was broken.
Wait, yeah.
Yeah, it probably was a normal joystick working exactly as intended. Yep.
While I managed to limp through the first stage, she quickly spent her life and moved on to a racing game where she got to put her initials on the board. I'd recommend you do the same. Enjoy the rest of the arcade with loved ones if you can. No NGP from me or EJC.
Was it the racing game that Okamoto was supposed to be making?
Was it the other one?
It wasn't, and his joystick wasn't broken.
One more from Sasser. Time Pilot was a delightful little gem of an arcade title this week. The concept of omnidirectional movement on a 2D screen was novel for the time. The controls took some time getting used to, but I was able to adapt after about a half hour. The button
Right.
mashing for firing your weapon wasn't great, but at least you fired 3 or 4 shots with each press. Understanding the core movement of enemy ships is attainable, so this one falls under difficult but fair, although sometimes you get caught by a shot out of nowhere. I got to the final end of stage 3. I got to the end of stage 3 once, and I look forward to spending more time on and off in the next couple of weeks until I finally beat stage 5. NGP from me.
I didn't mention it earlier, but I actually really like that you have to spam the button instead of hold the whole time because it takes out a tactile aspect of it for me that I kind of enjoy.
If you only have one button, you probably should make it where you have to press it, or you're just going to
or it's not a
press
game.
it and never let go again. Yeah. Sasser, I also think that I'll probably keep this up in my browser and play a few more times this week. Like it's really easy. Like you can get, if you know what you're doing, you can get through the 5 stages in 5 minutes?
It's
I mean,
short.
definitely 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Like, it's not long.
It's a quick game.
But for now, we're going to set aside Time Pilot, and we're going to randomly select the next game we're going to be playing for the next 7 days. You think it'll be older or newer than 1982?
I'm going 1978.
Wow.
I mean, it's certainly going to be newer than this game.
Randomizing now. Nolan, the director is Katsuhiro Hasegawa.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just going to tell you the director from now on. The game is newer, 1995. There you go, Kenny.
Ooh, way newer.
But it's for a platform that we've maybe played 1 or 2 games on, guys.
Oh, no.
Probably a couple more than that. It's a handheld. It's the Game Gear.
Oh no.
Interesting. No, that actually made me more intrigued, not less.
It's
Oh.
also from a series and franchise that we have played a number of games in.
That could be so many things.
I don't know
I'm not
what
gonna
the
guess.
number is. This one's a platform game developed by Aspect, published by Sega. The game stars Tails from the Sonic the Hedgehog series in a solo adventure. We will be playing for the next 7 days Tails Adventure.
Tails has a game?
I don't know if I knew that he had his own game, but he's my bro.
Yeah.
I'm excited about
How
this.
does Luigi have more games?
Then Tails.
Tails needed
Prowler?
some games, but I guess Tails does have a game.
He's
I
got
don't-
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that the reason why I don't like a lot of Sonic games is because you're going too fast. This is certainly going to slow things down. So
You
maybe
think so?
it's Tails. He's
Tails
not
is
near as fast.
Tails is fast.
No,
Tails
he's
is a
always-
pilot.
he's
Nice
a-
transition between games.
He's a pilot.
Wait, maybe Tails is the star of Time Pilot.
Find a copy of Tails Adventure and play along with us this week.
Gotta go fast to our Discord server, discord.gg/newgameplus.
I don't have a Sonic segue, but I will say thank you to those of you who support us on patreon.com, including our newest patron, Robert,
Hey,
who I'm
Roberto.
sure
Hey, Bob.
joined us specifically because of how much he loved Time Pilot. So welcome. We want to say thank you to our director level supporters, of course, Bro Jim, Siegfried, Mystic, and Tins, and to our many producer level supporters, a heartfelt thank you as well, including, and bear with me, there's lots of you, Alex and Marley and Antonin, Ben, Cody, Craig, Dagany, Dan Willett, Donner Party Bus, Garlisle, Hallex, Harold, Hey Brother, J. Robert, Jake, Jordan, Justin, Klin, Levi, Maxima, Megatroid, Miss Muso, Not Enough Dog, Radmac, Retroman, Sajan, Sasser, Scotty, Shane, Shauna, Snakematic, Super Hybrid, Swaggy, Taco Fish, Psycho Mantis, Thomas, Turtle, Unbedavable, and Zion.
That was a good one. Wait, did you do it in one breath?
That was
And
one,
he didn't say anything
that was
after?
one breath.
All
That
right.
was one breath.
Proud of you. You can find us on our social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our episode artwork was created by our friend Dave. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Tails Adventure. Until then, I'm still 1982.
I'm still convinced these controls are hot garbage.
I'm Clive Rossfield.
And this has been New Game Plus.